You know, it's funny. Before anyone asks, I actually do have my reaction to the one scene. You guys might be interested in seeing my reaction to. The reason I have the reaction, by the way, is because from the 12th to the 25th, I'm going to be in Italy. Which sucks, because Star Rail 3.3 is happening, like, next week, the week after, and I'm not going to be able to immediately do what I do, so I kind of just hope it's a dead patch and nothing insane happens. But let me just say, I know the upload schedule has been extraordinarily ass recently, but I promise, after this trip, the rest of my summer is the most boring thing imaginable, so you have my word, I will return to form with 4 videos a week. But until then, you know, I was trying to sit here and cram as many videos in as possible this week for, you know, just so I can schedule them out. It included a gameplay commentary, which I'm not going to end up releasing just because it ended up being horrible.
The truth is, Quinn, not long ago,
You're gay.
What is it? Is there something wrong?
Never mind. It's nothing.
Ah.
Actually, Quinn, I think we should stop seeing each other for now.
Oh, it's because you're gay. But, you know, we did get the one scene, and I did get the one reaction, which I'll play right now. Slapping the bald head. Master never showed her face, but if the Hexen Circle knows what I've done, that means she knows as well and gave her approval. You got the approval of the devil. You happy about that? Since devouring... She devoured Nibirius. What? She finally found a modicum of peace. Truly happy for her. She didn't always have a penchant for madness. Nature versus nurture. I'd argue nature. She's a crazy bitch. Bitch god. That's who that is. We don't accept the weak in Celestia. What? What? That aside, with regards to this whole interlude, honestly, not a fan of how they handled Durin. You know, how they presented Durin in the written lore years prior versus how he's presented here felt like two completely different entities. Yeah, there were some similarities in him being called childlike, but man, the Durin from 500 years ago was so innocent, he didn't even think Dvalin was fighting him. He thought they were dancing in the sky, but now he's just being permanently called evil and must die because of how evil he is. It just felt so bizarre. And yeah, I get it, you know, he's been by himself for 500 years and he gained truths which spawn jealousy, which beget violence. But nigga, don't tell us, show us. It's just concerning because if this is a sign of things to come and this was their first real crack at bringing the written lore to the forefront of the story and making it presentable to the general audience, and all of Nod Cry is doing just that, you know, bringing the written lore into the story, there's some bullshit that could be going on here, folks. I don't know, though. And maybe Piccolo's just got the fattest ass, and the story starts in Mondstadt. Damn, it's been a while since we said that. We're back for the annual Windbloom Festival and decide to first check in with Catherine for reasons I've yet to ascertain. Because of the festival, there's no commissions, but Catherine, the robot from Snezhnaya collecting information on the citizens of the nations to send it back to the motherland, says something strange is happening in Mondstadt to its people. When we look around, we see Beatrice breaking up with her best friend? Is that what they call this nigga? Catherine then tells us that Beatrice has been down in the dumps recently, but it's not just her. A knight of Favonius named Miles then walks up to us and decides to be sad near us, telling us he's been sleepwalking recently. We then learn Donna no longer has a crush on D-Luke and now loves Kaya. Hey, you want you to go black? Go back. Kaya then approaches us and whisks us away to the knight's headquarters where we run into some other captains. We then meet with Jean and she says they're all here for a trial that's going down. We noticed Albedo was a missing captain from the captain's squad from earlier, and Jean tells us that's cause his little goof-ass is the accused. Before we learn what he did, the trial begins, and Jean emphasizes above all else, the trial will be a fair one. I mean, bitch. As acting Grandmaster, Jean will oversee the trial, while a new face in Deacon Dahlia will be the assessor. We get caught up on the mention of victims, and before long the prosecution and defense show up. We learn Albedo is being charged with murder and dumping some bodies, and the whole case is built upon the testimonial evidence of several witnesses. The first being Beatrice, who one night saw Albedo dragging what she described as a human-sized bag. Summoning her inner Scooby, she followed him. Then a flash of golden lights, and a body appeared. Thanks to Albedo being able to wield Geo, he apparently buried the body, removed all traces of it, but not before shooting a seductive look at Beatrice. Jean then asks Albedo where he was during the time of the incident. He says in his office. Kaya, his acting lawyer, says that same day Albedo submitted a rather lengthy report that must have taken quite some time to write up. The prosecution asks for an alibi witness, but none exists. Kaya then pivots to the body or lack thereof, and Hertha admits they've yet to recover a body at the spot Beatrice claimed. Beatrice says she isn't lying, and even turns towards Hertha, who egged Beatrice on to make her claims public, who then says her confession wasn't all for naught because while no body was found, a shoe and a piece of fabric were found, but later does state no one in Mondstadt has been reported missing recently. Albedo quite simply states he hasn't killed anyone and asks what the motive could have been, and Hertha states maybe it was second-degree murder. She does, however, recognize that circumstantial evidence is what's dominating the first charge, so she levies a second set of charges on Albedo, this time having to do with a separate disposal of remains near the Dawn Winery. The witness in this case, D-Luke, who says he saw Albedo dump a body and use Geo to remove evidence. Given two separate witnesses corroborated the same MO, shit's looking chalked for Albedo, but Kaya once again asks about the lack of bodies. It's then Hertha reveals teeth, and a human femur were found at the location. The remains indicate decomposition well beyond when the crime was theorized to have happened, so the prosecution suggests alchemy is at play here, given that's Albedo's main work. Kaya then says the day of the murder, Albedo had a long conversation with Sucrose in the library. Sucrose then mimes up confirming as such. Hertha then asks if Sucrose fell asleep in the library. That's a weird fucking question. And Albedo answers for her, yes, throwing that alibi right out the window. Hertha begins piling on, reading to us a correspondence from Albedo himself, which says, man, I love me some human experimentation, death, and putrefaction, man. I should go do that shit. Rhinedottir, I'm gonna do you one better, bitch. Then he mentions some locations that match the crime scenes. Dahlia states this seems like a closed case, but two questions remain. Who were the victims, and how did Albedo conceal the bodies? Regardless of these rather big questions, big questions, Jean declares this absolutely fair trial over and declares Albedo guilty. Yeah, that was a fucking kangaroo court. After the trial, Rosaria approaches us and tells us he's waiting for us at Star Snatch Cliff. So we go and find Venti, but learn the he Rosaria was talking about was Dahlia, a herald of Lord Barbados himself. He knows Venti is Barbados and acts as the communicator of his will. We quickly discuss Albedo's background, and Venti states he's aware of the boy's nature and has been since both Rhinedottir and Alice brought him to Mondstadt. They then speak about the recent happenings in Mondstadt. Venti says the Seven know better than to mess with fate. Damn right you do. In any case, they ask for our help and give us the Dodoko communication device to keep in touch. We head back to headquarters and find the other captains are expressing their doubts to Jean with regards to Albedo's guilt. And when we walk in, they ask for our help investigating the case, so we go to Albedo's office and look. We find in there a letter which discusses needing materials and magic to conduct human transmutation. Interesting. We find a hidden compartment in his desk which references festering rot and forces us to consider the possibility Albedo wanted to create a new synthetic life. With it are maps that have X's at the locations Albedo is alleged to have disposed some bodies, including one that is yet to be explored. We had to report to Jean, but get a call from Venti, who sorta just is happy Albedo's identity as a creation of that bastard Rhinedottir remains unknown. And in perhaps the first statement of condemnation of Rhinedottir's actions from a true neutral, Venti says her approach to alchemy and ethics was pure madness. We catch a hint of doubt in Venti's voice with regards to Albedo's case, and then head to Jean, but not before finding, oh, Miles creeping. We head to the marked spot that had yet to be explored, and thanks to us being a seasoned adventurer, we find the tough-to-miss spot rather quickly. We note the hole is human-sized, but again, there's no body. We wonder why this hole wasn't smoothed over like the other places and leave. We report to Jean and learn Albedo has requested a retrial on the grounds of he just didn't like the fucking results of the first. We leave and Jean spots old creeper Miles back at it again. 2 days later, the second trial happens. The trial starts off with a bang for the prosecution, who reveals they identified the body of the teeth and femur. They belong to someone who went missing years ago, a single hunter named Hanselman. His disappearance went unreported due to no relatives. Dahlia asks again about the motive, and Hertha states the subjects were most likely needed for alchemical experiments. Albedo then stares at her in the least murder-like way, and then Hertha reveals there's another witness in Donna, who says when Diluc witnessed Albedo's crime, she was also there. She was camping with a friend near the mountain, and when she saw Diluc walking, she went to approach, but then saw Albedo dumping a body, and ran, wishing she never had a crush on Diluc so she wouldn't have approached him, and then, seeing the crime. Jean then presents to the court the map we found, and when Kaya asked Albedo if he owned the map and made the markings, he chooses not to plead the fifth and says yes, which all but causes Kaya to abandon hope for the nigga. Albedo simply reiterates he's never killed a person. Albedo says he's simply waiting right now, but while waiting asks us after finding the map if we visited the location. We say yes and report to the court our findings. We do some thinking and realize there's probably some doppelganger fuckery going on here, so we try to stall for Albedo's plan we assume he has and express our doubts to the court. Albedo then states there were in fact bodies at the locations he marked, and hell, he's even killed and buried someone on Dragonspine. He then references Doppel Albedo, but then reveals to us he killed and buried him? The fuck? Anyway, Eula confirms his story, and Hertha harps on the fact that Albedo admitted to killing someone on Dragonspine, but then clarifies he never said that someone was a person. Diluc, recognizing what's going on, immediately withdraws his testimony, which I'm not sure of the legality behind that, but it's then Hertha appears. Albedo states his study of research is Dragonspine, where old Durin was put down, but not out. His heart continues to beat and grow stronger with each passing day. He then just calls Prosecutor Hertha a homunculus. And now there's debate over which is the real Hertha. The new Hertha states there's a scar somewhere on her body, and Eula says she knows where it is. But before revealing it, asks Miles where it is, because that boy's been moving shiesty recently. He should know, given he was right next to Hertha when it happened. But he sort of just bitches about his fucking head hurting. Hertha then reveals the scar on her arm, then asks the one on the stand to show us all her arm. Albedo then reveals the fake Hertha is a spawn of Durin who can change her appearance at will. Other spawns of Durin are here, such as Miles, and given Hertha currently acts as the core, she can't change her appearance to match the scar because it'll affect the other life forms. It's then she just says fuck it, activates the sleeper cells, and then just jumps out of the room. We then talk with Albedo, who says he's never killed anyone, and everything we saw was simply a plan. The whole court, it was all a scam, a kangaroo court, I'm telling you. Diluc was the only one not in on it, but caught on very, very quickly. We then see Mondstadt getting jumped and learn these monsters are all from Dragonspine. Apparently, Durin's festering nature agitated them. I don't know. That's not the Durin I know. We move around the city helping people before linking up with Venti, who reveals Durin absorbed the previous Albedo. Albedo then clarifies that what the witnesses saw was the truth. He hid those fucking bodies, and while monitoring Dragonspine, he noticed some people would enter it and come back strange, indicating they were either under Durin's influence or they got ate and then body snatched. These were the bodies Albedo was putting to rest, the original ones that became corrupted in Dragonspine. Albedo reveals monsters dug up the Albedo he killed, hence why the one hole in Dragonspine wasn't smoothed over. It's just because monsters don't give a flying fuck. They placed the fake Albedo in Durin's stomach and he absorbed them. Ever since, all spawns of Durin have had the ability to shapeshift. Because it's tough to tell who's under the influence of Durin and who isn't, Venti will restrain those using Animo, and also gives us wind currents around the city so we can move around easier, and these wind currents also allow long-form communication. We then head out to help with the rest of the city, but, shots show us the city's doing damn fine on their own. Barbara reveals this whole defense plan has been a work in progress for months now. More shots of the city, just holding it down. We then overhear Hertha's role in the plan, which is just to have her fake her death so that a spawn of Durin would impersonate a relatively high-ranking member in the Knights of Favonius. As for how Durin and the boys knew about Hertha's disappearance, There's a snitch that Barbados has tracked down. We then head to Eula's position, who lost Klee, but then Klee appears, because fucking Klee, right? After the fight, Albedo instructs Klee to protect Eula, and she says yes. With the worst of it over, we then head back to the center of Mondstadt, and at the end, Venti appears, who says he overheard some interesting things on the wind, such as a child's anger, referencing Durin. Having been isolated for nearly 500 years after absorbing the other Albedo, he gained some insight into this world and learned he wasn't Rhinedottir's only creation, he wasn't even her best. This made him jealous, which beget anger and a desire to kill the Albedo, so he'd be Mother's only. And he chose to do this by accusing Albedo of murder? The fuck? We then head to the snitch and capture her. With all that over, we head to Jean's office, and Albedo reveals he'd like Venti to call a Trapapapatare meeting between himself and the Hexen Circle. This has its roots in Varka, who started the whole thing years ago, and had Venti facilitate. Varka got the mages to agree to protect Mondstadt, but Albedo wants something different. Venti says sure and calls him right up, but he dials the wrong number at first, and Varka picks up. He then redials, and this time Alice picks up. Venti says there's someone who'd like to meet with the witches, and upon learning it's Albedo, she wonders if he'll do something even his mother couldn't. But nonetheless, her interest is piqued, so she appears, but takes the form of a Dodoko. On behalf of the Hexen Circle, she agrees to Albedo's request and tells us to meet her at the long table. Before we head over there, however, Albedo tells us to go into his office as someone's there waiting for us. We go and we find Mini Durin, who reveals he's gonna take the real Durin's place as the one revived and brought into this world, and he's gonna do it as a human. The subject of human transmutation Albedo's been talking about was Mini Durin all along. He can apparently be more pure than the real Durin, you know, less evil. We head to the long table, and Albedo reveals he's gonna kill the real Durin on Dragonspine, but he needs some things from the Hexen Circle: the flesh of an immortal beast from the Mare Javari, and an embryo from Rhinedottir. Alice reveals it's from this embryo Rhinedottir created her monsters. Alice then picks up on the fact that Albedo wants to create life, and he confirms as such. He then speaks about the scared child Durin like he's Hitler, and says he wants to kill him and resurrect him in the form of a synthetic human like him, because Durin is evil, evil, evil. Alice is thrilled, but she says before the Hexen Circle can grant him his request, he must pass a teeny tiny little trial, and Albedo asks us to join him, but Alice says sure, yeah, that works. But no, Paimon, you can't have that Celestia spy in your inner world. I got you, don't worry, bitch. And with that, the trial begins.
Then, my dear children, get ready for a taste of the Dodo King's magic.
A lot of war hentai starts out like this. We are a little now, and to the surprise of no one, Alice herself is going to be the one administering the test, and it's just a fight, which we do well in. Too well.
Oh, it had to be this form? A toy really doesn't suit me. Well done, but this isn't over. I will now preside over the second trial. Stare straight ahead, and you will see things as they appear. But change your perspective, and you will see them as they are.
This one goes just as easily as the first. Barbeloth then leaves us, cause fuck us. We pass the test so we can go kill Durin, which we unceremoniously do. 2 days later, Venti is announced as this year's Windbloom star, and he plays a song.
Oh shit.
Albedo says we can't see mini Durin yet. I'm shocked, truly. He reveals Rhinedottir is mostly an uncaring individual as it pertains to her facial expressions. He thinks back to the goal his mother gave him, find the truth of this world, and he says she pretty much meant just get a life. He says despite his mother not showing up, she must know what he's done, and he then says that since devouring Nibirius, she's found some peace in that she wasn't always this mad scientist. We ask who Nibirius is. He says that's the ruler of life. My friends, he's talking about the shade of life. He says Alice had only recently told him the truth, but he wasn't surprised given he says he always knew Rhinedottir would do it sooner or later, but importantly clarifies Nibirius is not dead, but rather is now one with Rhinedottir. Excuse me, fellas, as I now go take some time to grieve. Until next time.